Peace, Hotep, Alafia. This is your sister, Dr. Maat, coming before you again with another powerful presentation or powerful discussion. I have with me tonight our esteemed elder, our Baba, Dr. Kaba Kamene. Peace and love to you, Baba. How are you?
Peace and Hotep to you, my sister Alafia and Jambo, and I'm just so grateful to have this opportunity to speak with you and speak with the community.
Yes, Baba. So, Baba, before we get started, I know that you have a book that is available for the people, and I want you to talk about that book for a brief moment before we get started.
Thank you, my sister. And what's interesting is that when we published Spirituality Before Religions in late July, none of us could foresee what the future held. But I find the book itself right now very applicable to the times that we're living in, where we all have to search within for that strength and that energy to move us forward. And so my book, Spirituality Before Religions, addresses certain issues as it relates to going back into the origins of spirituality before any religions ever existed. Where did it come from? Who brought it forward? And what were the philosophical underpinnings that would have brought it forward? Where's the science? It's subtitled Spirituality is Unseen Science and Science is Seen Spirituality. And so it lends with it that ability to be able to bring forward that knowledge and that wisdom. And so it's available on Amazon. That's the best way to get it right now. It's Spirituality Before Religions. And it's so appropriate to the times we're living in. And we'll weave in and out of it in our conversation, because spirituality is part and parcel of who we are as an African people. We can't separate it. Our lives are intertwined with it. And even though we may come with different variations of it, whether we be Christian or Hebrew or Muslim or Rosicrucian or Buddhist, it all comes from the same source. And I think that one of the things that has us at each other from a religious perspective, almost like living through the Crusades, where, I remember I was on 125th Street one time in a train station, and I heard a Christian brother with a Bible, and not too far away was a Muslim brother that, was selling incense and books and things like that. And they got into it with each other. And I said, this is almost like the Black Crusades. We don't even realize you both are coming from an African perspective, but because your interpretation comes from a Western, European, or Asian perspective, it's almost like you're fighting each other. But it's the same thing. And Spirituality Before Religions tries to unite all those thoughts into one. So make no difference if you're Christian, Muslim, Rosicrucian. Everything came out of an African mind, so get ready for what it represents. And so that's what I'm attempting to do in the book. And I believe from the feedback I'm getting, it's quite appropriate, particularly now. It was appropriate when we were going through the virus, the pandemic, as they called it. It was appropriate then. But now that pandemic led to the original pandemic, which is white supremacy. And it's something that we have to deal with, and we're going to have to understand what it is. But the only one that can solve the problem is white folk, because they're the one with the problem. Black folk don't have a problem. Black folk problem is the fact that white folk have a problem. We have to deal with their problem. But we as a people, we have our own issues. I'm not saying that. But the bottom line is, we don't come to the table with a major inferiority, insecurity, and fragile personality that makes us do some of the things that they do. And so I think the book lends to the conversation, lends to us looking deep within ourselves to understand exactly where do we go from here.
So, Baba, quick question. Can you please define spirituality? Because I know that's also another, and I know we're going to be talking about education tonight, but when you use the word spirituality, what do you mean, Baba, by that? What is that? What is spirituality?
Spirituality to me is the animating energy that brings all things into life through order and arrangement, guided by the principles of Ma'at, balance and justice and righteousness, respect and ethics, harmony, reciprocity, to realize that what goes around comes around. You shall reap what you sow. This is why it's so appropriate right now. I'm Dr. Clark used to always say, I'm surprised that you're surprised.
Mm.
And I'm just, I'm not saying that we're surprised, but 400 years, Sister Dr. Ma'at, 400 years. Why are we surprised?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we trying to figure out why they do what they do? Spirituality is an animating force within us. It came out of the cosmos that began to develop, order, and arrange all of the matter in the universe. But even within us, we have that also, that animating spirit that makes us who we are. We have the ability to move beyond that. We have intuitive instinct given to us by nature. Spirituality is the ability to be able to order and arrange the things that are around you. This is what society is about. Spirituality is not a religion. It has become that because those who stole our legacy didn't understand the story, so they created little gangs.
Mm.
And in these gangs, they said, we're in charge. And therefore, our God is in charge.
Mm.
And so therefore, you have people going to battle with each other over their God. Yet each of them claims that their God, there's only one God. So if there's only one God, why would the God Allah tell Muslims to fight the God of Christianity? And why would the God of Christianity say you should fight the God of Hebrewism or Rosicrucian or whatever it is? If there's only one God and all of them are whispering in the ears of everybody, it appears that God is trying to eliminate everybody.
Right. Exactly, Baba.
And so the whole, but see, as Black folk, as African folk, because we have the legacy of infinity and eternity, because we've been around for all time and space and realize it, we've been bamboozled into believing that you need to organize spirituality. And while you should, in Africa, what you demonstrated your love and belief in your creator by how you conducted yourself.
Absolutely.
And how you treated each other and how you treated nature. That's how you demonstrate it. It's not about going to church every Sunday and putting a whole bunch of money up in the church. It goes by your actions. And so spirituality is an unseen science. It is the very nature of what exists, but we just can't see it. Science is what you can see that really is telling you about what spirituality is. So that's why the subtitle of the book is Spirituality is Unseen Science, and Science is Seen Spirituality.
Beautiful, Baba. Beautiful. So, Baba, let's get into tonight's discussion. I wanted to talk to you or have a public conversation with you about education. For me, education and economics, those are the most important things. Those are the foundation of many things. And so I'm looking at the education system. I see a lot of problems within the education system, but I want our people to first know, Baba, what is education? Because typically growing up, we hear our parents say that you got to go out here and you got to get a good education so you can get a good job. And so we grow up thinking that education is this thing that you go and you acquire and get, so that you can secure a good future for yourself and for your family. But as I've grown, Baba, in knowledge, I've realized that education is much more complicated than that. Education is a very complex process. And so, Baba, I want you to explain to the people, what is your perspective on education? What is education and what is the function of education?
When we look at the ancient model, and I'll always go back to the ancient model because of the nature of my time in education. For those who may be watching that may not be familiar with my background, let me just tell you a couple of things that allows me to come to this conversation and say some of the things that I can say. I first began teaching in 1977 in Gary, Indiana. I was really into communication. I was working in Gary as a disc jockey in a newly acquired Black-owned radio station, WLTH. Seaway Bank in Chicago had just purchased it. And I was brought in as the production manager and as the weekend disc jockey. Very interesting. While I was there, the teacher who taught radio and television went on sabbatical.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, there was an opening. They didn't want to stop the program because it was one that many of the students enjoyed. And so I was asked, would I be interested in teaching the class on radio and television? Because I had the qualifications to be able to do that in terms of what the requirements for being a teacher were. So I took it. And so in August of 1977, I began teaching. Now, that tells you now I've been teaching for 43 years. Mm. I then returned to New York and I taught in the New York City system in South Central Bronx from October of 1979 until July of 2009. I've taught college. I've taught at Fordham University. I taught a year. It took them a year to figure out what I was doing because I was teaching a class on multicultural education and racism. And they hired me at Fordham University to teach. I've taught at Toro College, and then I taught 12 years in the Black Studies department. Mm-hmm. I've taught every grade. I've taught every subject. And the reason why I say this to our family is because I've also been an administrator. I've been an assistant principal, an administrative assistant. I've been executive assistant to the superintendent. So these qualify me to be able to say certain things that I've seen happen in the system. My study of Africa and my belief that Dr. John Henry Clark probably had the most impact on me as an educator. I come to the community by telling you, I am the spook who sat by the classroom door. Mm-hmm. I'm the brother who was in the classroom watching the system so that one day I could come out and tell the community what the system had been doing and was doing, and to help us understand what I believe the answer to educating our youth and our community and our parents should entail. Education was born and bred in Africa. Mm. And for millions of years, the system was put in place. The fundamental basis was then co-opted. Let me just say, from the Twa, it was taught to the other groups of Africans in the general area known as the Kushites. The Kushites then brought it into Kemet, and that's what created the Egyptian civilization, so to speak. So that the very beginnings of education came from Africa. When the Eurasians began to infiltrate into Africa, into the northeast quadrant, which the place of entry would have been Kemet or Egypt because of the nature of moving from Asia through countries like what we today call Lebanon and what we today call Israel. These were all African lands. But as the Eurasians came out of the mountains and came down, they began to go after the people in these various geographic locations until they got into Kemet. Let me jump forward now to the Greeks. The Greeks came in 332 BC, and they sat at the feet of the Africans to learn. They never got it right. They had some semblance of it, but they never got it right. And then from the Greeks came the Romans in 30 BC and attempted to attack the Greeks. And so then they were introduced to information. And this is the word now that comes educare.
Go ahead, Baba.
Educare means to educe. It means to draw out. So the African way of teaching was not to teach like, I'm going to teach you something. The African perspective of transmitting knowledge is to bring out of you the knowledge of what I'm saying that you were born with.
Come on, Baba.
You see, to bring it out, to educe, to draw out of the teacher. You're not putting anything in, you are drawing it out of the student. Because it is an African belief that you are born with every bit of information that has ever existed, that is existing in the present, and will ever exist in the future. It's like this, my sister, Dr. Maat. It's like if we turned out all the lights in the room and we saw nothing in front of us. didn't know anything. We were in the dark, and all of a sudden you found a light switch. You turned the light switch on, and then all of a sudden you saw the chairs, and you saw the table, you saw the pictures on the wall, you saw the computers, the pens, everything you see in a room. My question is, did all those things appear in the room when you turned the light on? No, they were always there. Your light just wasn't on.
That's right.
So education is meant for the facilitator or the teacher to be able to draw out of the student the knowledge they already have to assist the learner to learn that you already knew what I came in the room telling you.
Oh, Baba, that was beautiful. I wanted to just plug these books. I know you saw me kind of scoop my chair back there and grab something off my shelf. But when you started talking about how the Greeks studied at the feet of our ancestors, they can find that information in a book. I know, Baba, you're familiar with that, The Stolen Legacy by George G.M. James. He talks about that in this particular book. And also, Baba, when you gave the definition of education, you can find that definition in this book right here. I'm going to turn to the first page. It's called, well, chapter 1 of this book, Know Thyself by Dr. Naeem Akbar. In his book, in chapter 1, he calls education the vehicle for transformation of self-knowledge, and he explains the definition of education. So thank you so much for that, Baba. So my next question is this, Baba. What is the function of education?
The function of education is to produce a productive citizen of the community, of the nation, that will find his or her divine purpose in life that they were born to achieve. They will contribute it to the society, and the society will be better for having had the experience. To me, it's just very simple. It's a very straightforward. Our ancestors were not complex. They were geniuses. But I've always believed that the greatest education is when someone can take a complex issue and make it simple. But we're living in a world of Eurasians that don't understand what they're talking about. So therefore, they take a simple concept and make it complex. Math and science is so beautiful. I mean, there is beauty in math and science.
Yes, it is.
And there is such a common sense approach towards the application of understanding. Math is the language of science. Science is the basis for the development of technology. And so that everything that we know about every civilization, everything we know about the math of Africa, the math of Asia, everything we know about science, everything we know about the pyramids, everything we know about every structure that existed in the ancient world, we know through their arts. The arts was a spiritual science that allowed each individual to contribute to the society from their perspective. And so to Africans, there was an excitement in difference. There was an excitement when you could teach me something that I didn't know. There was an excitement when you could get together and share information, and it wasn't like one putting the other one down. And so they found education as a community event where everybody came to the table with their own unique divine gift. And their divine gift made everybody else's gift that much better. This is not this society we're living in here now. It's not based on it. Just the fact that when you have, look, one of the things that I always told teachers when I developed, when I was doing staff development, I said, look, let me tell you something. I don't care if the child got 100 or 75. If they're doing the best that they can do, they need to be acknowledged for that. And don't put that 100 paper on top and then do it by score. Because I'll take you to another classroom where the actual achievement of each of those students can be reversed. And so when you start this competitive, there's nothing wrong with competition, but each and every one of us should not be competing with each other. We ought to be competing with the person we were a moment ago. We should always be trying to get better. That's the competition. It's an internal competition, not a competition with somebody else. Because there are other people that will drop some stuff on you. They may academically not be able to achieve anything at all in many different ways, maybe not the way in which it's being introduced to them. But in another area, they're geniuses. If you put them down for the area that they may not be able to achieve certain things, and you make that the standard, then what happens when they are able to achieve in another area? What happens when they grow up to be one of the greatest geniuses of the world? I mean, had they known Einstein failed math, Einstein couldn't handle math. Yet look what he did.
Absolutely, Bobby. And you just sparked a thought of mine. I had a student, and I'm not going to say his name on air. I teach, and people who know who I am, they know I teach over at Morgan State University here in Baltimore, Maryland. And there was a student of mine, and he took a class. I teach a class called Electric Circuits, and it's a sophomore level class in our engineering program. And what I noticed is that he failed. When he took me, he said, Doc, he said, this is, the third time that I'm taking electric circuits. And, I decided to take you. I took this other professor and I failed him twice. And he said, I'm taking you now. Doc, when I say this gentleman was a genius at cybersecurity. So he wasn't well, he didn't do well with circuits per se. He's not a math person, but he's awesome in cybersecurity. He just couldn't get past circuits. And he was telling me that it takes him a long time to figure those things out. But if you put him in front of a computer and you say, look, I need you to tap into this system, he can code and he can code and develop algorithms that are hack into different systems. The boy was a genius, but he just wasn't, he just didn't do well in that specific class. And I was telling my colleagues that this guy is a genius. It's just he just can't get past circuits. So Baba, you're right. One student may do poorly in this particular area, but may excel in another area. And so as an educator, like you said, we just have to figure that out, Baba.
Absolutely. And now let me take you to Africa and talk to you about what would have happened there as it relates to this student. There was the levels. Okay, you can look at it from a Kemetic perspective. You can look at it from the Dogon of Mali, West Africa perspective. But there was a graduation of maturity that brought students in life into the educational process, because school is life. The idea that you have after school is ridiculous. There's no such thing as after school. After school is when you've died. In the African perspective, school is life. Everything that you're experiencing, you're learning from. And so what would have happened is that young brother would have been given to an apprentice. He would have been an apprentice to a master craftsman or craftswoman in their area. So if he was good in that, he could have learned electrical circuits as it relates to cybersecurity. The area that in which he has his genius, all the other subject areas would have been geared towards putting him in that.
Absolutely.
I've had students that have challenges in math, 5th grade. They have challenges in mathematics. But they can play some basketball. And so I'm going to teach them about, in math, I'm going to teach them about rate times time equals distance. Train leaves Baltimore on the way to Washington, D.C. It stopped between the two areas. It's supposed to get there at a particular time, but it stopped for whatever reason. Now they can go. How fast does the train have to go to be able to get to Washington at the expected time? The rate times the rate that the train goes times the time that it's going to travel determines its distance.
That's right.
Students say, yo, Brother Kaba, I can't get this. I say, but let me tell you this, bruh. Okay, let's go down to the basketball court. This brother, every time he takes a shot, it's whoosh. It's one of those hoop balls. Goes right in. Whoosh. I say, brother, do you realize that every time you throw that basketball, you are performing the equation rate times time equals distance. Because the rate that you throw the ball times the time that it's in the air going is going to determine its distance. And I said, I can guarantee you that if you mastered this equation, you could shoot that ball from any corner of this room. In fact, you could leave the room and throw the ball. And if you could understand rate of throwing the ball times time equals distance. Now, if you add that backboard, now you've just added geometry into what you're doing because you're dealing with angles. Because now you got to hit that backboard in a way. That's why they got little back. And you can throw that ball, you're going to create an angle. And whether you realize it or not, every time you throw that ball, it's going to go in because you've perfected the formula. And I did the same thing in when you play in pool. That's all about geometry.
Baba.
So what I'm saying is this: I'm not saying that math student should not learn rate times time equals distance. I'm just saying maybe the introduction of the concept should be in the area where this brother shine instead of always not shining, because who says you've got to give me back the information simply because I told you this is how you got to do it. And so education was meant for you to master all things, but master it within your own divine gift. That's what's important. We have students that are kinesthetic. They move a lot. Right. We have students who are
visual.
Say again?
I said visual.
Absolutely.
Visual. Yeah, in visual.
Fact, 1992, my sister, doctor, I was going to different schools to prepare them because everybody was getting ready to go see the movie Malcolm X by Spike Lee. And they used to combine classes sometimes. And I know that the room that I'm speaking about right now was a science laboratory because there were sinks against the wall and a lot of the students were sitting on the sinks and they were sitting on the sides because they had brought more than one class in, for us to talk about Malcolm X. And I was there and I was watching the brother, and brother was steady doing something. Every so often he'd look up at me and then he'd go back and be doing something. I didn't say anything to the brother. I didn't say, hey man, this ain't, you're supposed to be listening to what I'm saying.
Right.
I let folk flow with what I was doing.
Right.
To get out of the room, I had to pass that area where the brother was. And as I was passing the brother said to me, he said, brother, that's a lot of information you shared about me. I'm looking forward to see the movie now. He said, here, this is for you. He gave me what he had been doing. And actually, it was a block art letter form of Malcolm X's name.
Wow. And
when I looked at it, I said, hey, bruh, you're going to have to sign and date this because I'm going to frame this. And he just, he got really happy, that I would think of his work that way. But what I'm saying is that had I stopped that brother from doing what he was doing, he very well could have stopped listening to me. Because he was the type of person that needed to express the experience in art. He would have shut me down if I had stopped him.
And Bob, in today's classroom, that's what would happen if if a student's not paying attention to you, you tend to say, hey, you, because Bob, I have to admit, I've done it. The student is looking down and I say, excuse me, may I have your attention, please? I'm giving a lecture, you need to pay attention. But like you said, Baba, we don't know what's going on and what that student is doing. So, you want to command the attention of your students. But like you said, Baba, we got to be careful because you never know. You don't know what's going on or what is the student might be writing notes or might be trying to, take what you said and put it down into something that they could remember, So we definitely got to be cognizant of that, like when we pull students up in the classroom. But
yes, absolutely. Now, my sister, Dr. Ma'at, there was a point that I wanted to go back to when you asked what is education, and I talked to you about how to educe.
Sure, Baba.
The African method of educing came out of questioning techniques. It is called the Socratic Method. Of course, we know they got it from Africa, but it's questioning. Every teachers in developing curriculum, in developing your lesson plans, one of the most important part of your lesson plan is to ask questions.
Hey, Baba, look, I have a cousin who teaches, and she was helping me to create a curriculum for the Meltrek program. And in doing so, Baba, at the beginning of the unit plan, she writes, essential question.
Yes.
Exactly, Baba. So please continue, Baba.
I break it down, those questions, into 4 different types. I call it the food technique, FOOD. Factual questions, because the questions you ask, you have to understand what they're going to generate through your own expectations as the facilitator or the teacher. So you have questions that are factual. It's either a yes or a no, or it's it's a fact. Okay. You have to know the difference between fact and an opinion question. Because sometimes we get caught up in the personal aspect of it where we don't like your opinion. But it's not up to the facilitator to like your opinion. You have a right to your opinion.
Absolutely.
You might be, I might hear your opinion and say, that's really, there's some challenges with the way you're thinking right now. But I can't say you're wrong because that's your opinion.
That's right.
There's a difference. The third type, the other O, is open-ended questions. Open-ended questions normally have the word, what I call C, S-E-A, some, ever, any. Have you ever been to Africa? That's an open-ended question because I don't know what's coming in response, open-ended. The D follows normally behind the open-ended question that is descriptive. Okay, what countries have you gone to in Africa? When teachers are developing their questions to educe out, the genius of a teacher is to be able to know the salient, important points to be made in that classroom. Those questions are more based on the teacher and what the teacher is exposing and what the teacher wants to draw out of the student. So it takes critical thinking skills that teachers have to have in developing the types of questions that can bring out of the student what he or she may know or what he or she may feel about a certain topic, subject, or whatever it is that you're teaching. And so I wanted to add that because that's the other part of educing. Because then the question is, well, how do you educe? You educe through questioning techniques. And not only that, you also educe by follow-up questions. Because once you got them open, once you got them coming out, talking, you want to follow, because what you're doing there is you're connecting their neural network in their brain. You are connecting their neurons, because that's what you want to do. You want to create pathways in the brain so that students can get information within themselves and have a smooth pathway. That leads to memorization, how you can memorize something by teaching to the long-term memory, which is located in the hippocampus part of the brain. So I just wanted to add that other part before we continued, because that questioning technique is very important.
Absolutely, Baba.
In fact, that's one of the things that students really enjoyed about my class, because, and the other thing is here also, is teachers, good teachers, we beat ourselves up by thinking we got to do all the talking in the classroom. And that's just not true. Some of the most vibrant classrooms is when the students are talking. When I was a kindergarten teacher and I used to get observed, I used to always tell the principal who was coming in to observe me, I say, doctor, please do not judge my class by the sound that you're going to hear. Please judge my class by the work they're doing, because I encourage conversation in my class. My classrooms were some of the most verbose classrooms in the school. In fact, there was a reputation. Oh, that's Booker T, because at the time I hadn't corrected my name. People say, whenever the sounds would come, and when you have let's call it a noisy classroom, that's not looked upon with good feelings. You know, people think a noisy classroom is a bad classroom where children do not have discipline. But my classrooms that I had with my 5-year-olds, oh, I love to hear them talk. It was important that they talk. And I encouraged to have conversation. And if I said something and another student reached over to another student to say something, I never assumed they were just talking. I used to say, you know, can you share what you just spoke about? Can you share it? You know, because you can teach me. And then they thought, oh, I can teach Brother Booker T that. Oh, wow. And then they would share, and they were talking about something that dealt with the classroom. They weren't just talking out of, you know,
to be disrespectful or anything, right? They were just kind of,
yeah. And they were engaged.
Absolutely. And Baba, I had to learn that. I just started teaching at the university level in 2017, and when I came in, Baba, I came in hardcore, and my students would, if they heard me say that, they would probably laugh and say, "Yeah, Dr. Bailey, she came in hardcore." And so when they were talking, I remember, saying, "Hey, wait a minute, you're being rude. Don't talk while I'm talking." And they would say, "Oh no, Doc, we were talking about what you just explained on the board." So like you said, Baba, they were engaged in the discussion, and they may have had some side conversation with one another, or someone may have tapped, one student might tap another student and say, "Well, I didn't quite catch what she said. Could you re-explain that?" And the other student might be telling the student. So you're right, Baba. When they're having side conversations in the classroom, we shouldn't assume that they are, they're not paying attention or they're disengaged,
That's
so
right.
absolutely, Baba.
And that's where the questioning technique comes in. And say, hey, share with us what you're doing, because maybe there are other students in the class that can benefit from what you're telling them.
Absolutely.
And the other thing is that I used to have an ankh. And the thing is everybody had a right to talk. This is when I needed to have a little bit more, I don't want to call it control, but direction. Let's call it direction.
Okay.
And I had an ankh, and I used to call it the talking ankh. And the talking ankh was, you had to request the ankh. And when you had the ankh, you could talk. And if somebody else wanted to talk, they would pass the ankh to another person. That ankh gave you permission to talk. Now, I was doing two things. One, I was, in a sense, directing the attention of the classroom by the talking ankh. And I always didn't do it, but I did it when I knew I had to do something, whether it be for preparation or whatever. But also, everybody touched the ankh. And I was able to teach them what the ankh was. And so I was able to get that little bit of Kemetic education in the classroom. At the same time, we had order and arrangement. And Dr. Clark always told me to have classroom discipline. The first thing you have to do is you have to have a good class to teach. And if the student hasn't learned, the teacher hasn't taught.
Baba, did you just hear what you said? If the student hasn't learned, the teacher hasn't taught.
That's right. Some of the greatest lessons I've gotten, my sister, Dr. Maat, have come from the roughneck hardheads, because they made me find a way to get to them. They made me find, I didn't give up on them. They made me find a way to get to them. They made me change my teaching pattern. They made me go against things that I thought was the golden rule in order for me to get to them, because my thing is, I will brave the fires of hell for our children.
As we should, Baba.
Absolutely.
As we should.
On the front line. And our children are, and even now, as I see, as we are going through the original pandemic. See, we're going through the original pandemic right now. This pandemic is the pandemic of all time and space. It's called white supremacy. This COVID is a virus. That's a biological pandemic. What we're dealing with right now is a social pandemic. Because this comes directly out of white supremacy. There's no way that I'm looking at what's going on right now in the world that I don't realize what Neely Fuller said. Neely Fuller said in his book on compensatory code of white supremacy. He said, if you're trying to deal with a problem and white supremacy isn't at the core of the problem, you ain't dealing with the problem.
Mm. He also said, Baba, that if you don't understand racism and white supremacy, what did he say? All other things, everything will confuse you.
Everything else will
everything else will confuse you if you don't understand
right.
racism and white supremacy. Yes, sir.
That's right. That's exactly right. And this is something that we know, we understand, and we have got to begin to put all of this together. My concern is when things open up again, where will each and every one of us be in terms of how it has affected us? And what I'm saying is to hold tight to what you know. This ain't nothing new. Be it the physical. Do you know how many of us caught their viruses by the things they did to us when we were on the plantation? Sometimes Africans were wiped out on plantations because of the viruses that Europeans had and the sicknesses that they brought upon us and the things that they did to us. We shouldn't be surprised that the great majority of us are sometimes the core recipients of the worst of this pandemic. How long is this going on where we have to deal with summers with little burlap things that we put on to protect us when it's cold outside? How many of us had walked with barefoot in the snow? You know, how many of us went without eating? You talk about food desert. The plantation was a food desert. 400 years we've been through this. There's nothing happening today that wasn't happening 400 years, 300, 200 years ago. And somewhere we have to make a decision as to what we're going to do. My lane, and when we spoke earlier today, you said your lane is education.
Absolutely.
This is where I believe my greatest contribution can be. There are others that might be security and military. There might be others that are spiritual and religious. There might be others that are economic. There's others that are politics.
That's right, Baba.
Because when you break up Neely Fuller's areas, he shows you the 9 areas
of human activity. That's right, Baba. Teach.
Okay.
Go ahead, teach,
I call it REL, CEL, WEP. I've got it as an acronym. However, I've added a 10th one. REL is religion, economics, and labor. These are areas that we as Black folk have to organize and see ourselves developing. The very best religious leaders. I don't care, you're a Christian minister, you're a Muslim imam, you're a Hebrew rabbi. Look, it's about African people. It's not about your own religion. It's not about your own thing that you bring to the table. It's about the issue is our people and the emancipation and liberation of our people's minds, bodies, and spirits.
Absolutely, Baba.
So you have CEL. He calls it sex. I tend to stay away from that because people get the impression of the physical act. I call it gender issues. We got to get our gender issues in place. Got a lot of gender issues out here. We got to talk about it with respect towards each other, with love and honor towards each other, no matter what. Gender issues, we have got to get that together. And then you have education. That's my area. That's your area. Indeed. That's where I drive my car through that lane in education. It's not that I may not have information on other areas, but the area that I focus on is education. And then you have law, our lawyers. And let me tell the Moorish nation something right now. I go back with the Moors a long time. I go back to the Moors in Baltimore. There in Baltimore were some of the most powerful, the Moors that sat at the feet of the Honorable Noble Drew Ali. When they were children, I had a chance to interact with them and develop. I used to go to the Embryonic Moorish Science Temple there in Baltimore once a month to teach a class. We have got to get lawyers like the lawyers that we see on TV right now that are defending all of the different situations. Those lawyers that have gone to school, the Moors have got to get a hold of them. And after they get their license to be a lawyer, they need to learn Moorish law. Because one of the things that's a challenge is that I understand individuals can go into a court of law and they can defend themselves. But there are things about the law that you could say something and right there you got 5 years, no probation.
Mm.
The Moorish law is a powerful law. It is a law that goes back to an ancient time that existed in America at one time by Moors. That's where you get the, where you think the Mormons came from. Moor man. Right there, they were there. That's where they got their spiritual system from the Moors. Now, they're not going to admit it, but why you call Moor man? You then have the idea that you now move into WEP, which is war or security. Some people have a problem with war. Security.
Security, protection.
Protection.
That's right, Baba.
We need those forces. You can see we need these forces.
Absolutely.
Then you have entertainment. Entertainment is the area, the arts and the crafts have got to return back to an African model of the expression of the community itself, of the living force. If people were to go back in a time capsule 2,000 years from now and pick the years 1965 to 1985, they were to observe music. They would hear the Motown sound.
Mm.
When something's wrong with my baby, something's wrong with me.
Mm.
I can't help myself.
I'm thinking about my favorite artist, Nina Simone.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Do what you got to do. I mean, hey, Mr. Bojangles, think of that. Think of listening to that music. And now the same group of people, 2000, are now going to listen to music of 2005, where the B word and all these other words are expressed.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to look at that and they're going to question what was going on during that time that made that the expression of their art.
Come on, Baba.
You see, when you have a lot of the rappers out here, and I understand, okay, they freewaying, they doing the best they can with what they got, and they're doing quite well. But in 40 years from now, when you're in your car and they're playing the oldies but goodies, which is your music, and they hear you call your woman a B. Come on.
Or refer to yourself using the N word. Come on, Baba.
They're going to ask you, is that how you felt about grandma? Did grandma your bitch? Think about that as a grandparent. When you have matured into who you are and you've looked back and say, well, I did what I had to do, but wow, that was kind of rough calling the woman that, and the DVDs that we see, and that marks your entertainment. That is marking what the society is doing. My generation said, when something is wrong with my baby, something's wrong with me. Can I be with you? I love you. You are the sunshine of my life. That expression is in the art. That is telling you how the man felt towards the woman. But when she becomes someone who you mock and you criticize and you cruelly treat her, that is also a reflection of the times that we're living in. And so entertainment becomes very important as it relates to the movies that we're developing, as it relates to the songs that we're singing, the art that we're drawing. It has to go back and we have to understand this. And then the final is politics. We got to get these politicians in shape right here now.
Come on, Baba.
Okay, because the reason why this is happening is because the politicians weren't doing what they were supposed to do 20, 30 years ago. And so we need to bring in, and we do got some up there doing a lot of good talking. And I'm hearing them and I'm seeing the sisters doing their thing. And I see a powerful movement occurring. I'm seeing sisters who are the mayors of these cities. I'm seeing sisters who are now being, I saw we saved Joe Biden. The reason why Joe Biden is where he is first and foremost because of Jim Clyburn, the congressman. And then out of that, black woman just say, look, I know Joe Biden. Okay, let's be clear. Malcolm told us, Democrats are sly foxes and Republicans are brute wolves, but they both belong to the dog family. Don't ever forget that. None of them mean us any good. I'm into voting. But I'm not voting because I think they like me. They don't like me. I'm voting because of the nature of the strategy, because there are people coming from all around the world becoming citizens. They're getting into the voting process. And what's going to happen in 30, 40, or 50 years is that Black folk not engaged in the political process are then going to be told what to do by people of color sometimes.
That's right.
But because they voted and because they became part of the process, they took it over. I'm talking to Black folk. I'm saying, take America. People talk about, I don't want the crumbs from the cake. I don't want the crumbs from the cake. I want the bakery where the cake is made.
That's right. And Baba, let me just interject, because it's something that you said that came to my mind when you said they're all the same dogs. I was thinking about Dr. Amos Wilson in his book, Blueprint for Black Power. He tells us that the Republicans and Democrats are two wings on the same plane.
There we go.
Yeah, they're going to, so regardless of whether you vote for this wing or this wing, they're still going in the same direction. And what we as Black people need to do is practice group economics to put ourselves in a position to then gain or amass political power and start practicing what Dr. Claude Anderson talks about in his book, Powernomics, group politics. So, yes. Back in the day, Baba, when you all were coming through, you all were voting in blocks. And so you were able to make a difference. But now it seems like within the Black community, we're split. You have some Black folks who are not voting. Some Black folks are voting Democrat. Other Black folks are voting Republican. Some Black folks are independent. Some Black folks are vote. So we need to get back to that, Baba, where we're using our votes as leverage to put certain politicians in position that will execute an agenda that will benefit us, Baba.
That's exactly it. And the key is to understand as you're moving through this process what it is. And don't get clouded because we vote, we think we're voting because someone likes us. No, that has nothing to do with it. The great congressman from Harlem, Reverend Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Mm-hmm. Once said the dirtiest word in the English language is liberal. I don't trust nobody. Politics ain't about trust. Politics is, as you say, about leverage.
Absolutely.
You do this, you get this.
Quid pro quo.
About quid pro quo.
That's right.
This for that.
This for that.
This for that, period. Okay? I'm not interested in going to your dinners. I don't care about anything.
That's right,
that
Baba.
relates to socialization. I'm not saying that I wouldn't do it with good people, with good fellowship, with people that really do have a care, because there are those that do. But the idea for me is that we just have to critically think about the position that we find ourselves in, particularly now, because when we come up out of this, it's going to be a different world out here.
Absolutely.
It was going to be different with COVID. Now with this is totally, we have to have our head in place. Now, the 10th area that I've added that I felt we need to focus on is health and nutrition.
Come on, Baba.
Because, hey, you can have everything that we just said. All those 9 areas could be up and running. But if you're sick, it don't mean a thing.
It don't mean a thing, Baba. And right now, when I was looking at the health statistics for the African-American community, we're the highest in diabetes, we're the highest in high blood pressure. And we know what that is from, Baba. I mean, not having access to those, places, you typically in the urban community, you have a fried chicken store in every corner where, we're eating chicken boxes and we're getting poor quality foods from the convenience stores on the corner. So we know why that is so, Baba. But we need to get back to growing our own foods. I know that in Powernomics, Dr. Claude Anderson speaks about hydroponic farming, where he was saying that we should get indoor facilities and begin to grow our own foods and vegetables again. And he said we can even go into business, create a business or create wealth by doing that. But we would also be solving the health crisis in the Black communities, because now we could give our people access to nutritious foods, Baba.
Absolutely. And this is how we have to start looking, because I got a little garden on my windowsill. I live in a co-op, but I've got on my windowsill a garden. I'm growing food, through it's called Aero Garden. I'm growing it like that. I'm growing it natural. And then when it grows to a certain point, you put it in a bigger pot and it starts to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Power.
That is power. Being able to feed yourself is power. That is Black empowerment. Go ahead, Baba.
I was going to just say to you, my sister, here's my example that I give. Here's my question. If all the stores and restaurants in your neighborhood, within your general vicinity, closed, could you eat dinner?
And if the answer is no, come on, Baba.
Power.
You don't have any power. Come on, Baba.
Now, here's the example. When I worked in South Central Bronx, there was a nutritionist that used to be in the teacher cafeteria. Beautiful sister, wonderful heart. She lived with her sister in a home in the Bronx, and she had a backyard. And she would grow cucumber, tomatoes, and she would bring, because she knew I like salad, she would bring products from her salad and she would make me a salad from her backyard. Okay. I've known people work on Wall Street. They have millions of dollars. Make a lot of money on Wall Street. But if all those supermarkets closed,
come on.
That sister that worked in the cafeteria had more power than that millionaire did.
That's right, Baba.
Because although it's green, you can't eat money.
Come on.
And in her garden, she could continue to grow food. She could continue to live. She could continue to survive. That is power.
That is power. And Baba, that brings me to, I'm thinking about my uncle, peace be upon his soul, Eugene Singleton. He transitioned a few years ago. He transitioned at the age of 91. And when I was a little girl, I used to spend a lot of time down with my summers. My cousin and I, we used to spend our summers down in Sumter County, South Carolina. That's where my family's from. And I remember seeing a chicken coop behind my uncle's house. He had a chicken coop. He also had behind one of the trailers. So he had a house and then there was a trailer, and on the right side of the trailer, there was a chicken coop. And behind that chicken coop, he had cows, he had pigs. When we wanted breakfast, we would have to go outside in the chicken coop and get eggs. After we finished our food, we would put it in a bucket, and we call it a slop bucket. He would take that bucket out to go feed, the pigs. And as I gotten older, Baba, I realized that was power.
Yeah.
He fed his family. He didn't have to go to the supermarket. He wanted beef. He go out back. He slaughter a cow. He might slaughter a pig. He slaughter a chicken, and he fed his family. That's power, Baba. And we have to get back to that.
Yes. And we have to get back to that kernel seed knowledge that's power. See, because power isn't something that you have. Power is something that you do. See, your family had power, but it wasn't that he said he had power.
No.
When you were hungry, he said, go out there and get them eggs.
That's right.
Okay, that is an action-oriented concept. You say, I have power. No, you don't have power. You wield power.
You wield power.
You do it. Power is an action-oriented thing that people can see, and they understand that you have the power because you're doing the power.
That's right. When you look at the definition of power, the ability to. Yes. So like you said, Baba, it's a verb, just like consciousness. I've heard you say that consciousness is a verb. Yes. You said we typically think of it as a noun because when we Google it, it says to be aware. But you said when you conscious, you do. So you said you define consciousness also as a verb, Baba.
Absolutely. It's an action-oriented activity, and this is why when there are, like, for instance, there was a brother that did a presentation, and he had a suit and tie on, and he asked a question. He said, he newly became aware of this information, and he wanted to know. He said, like, when I go to different meetings now, coming from work, I got my suit and tie on, and there are people that criticize me, telling me that I'm, because of my suit, that I'm not conscious. And he said to me, does consciousness, and could I wear this suit and be conscious? And I told him, I said, brother, it's funny because when you stepped up to the microphone, I was about to tell you how sharp your suit was and how good you looked in that suit. I said, consciousness has nothing to do with what you wear, because I know too many people that are dashiki-licious and they don't have the first amount of information or caring for our community. And so consciousness isn't what you wear. I don't care if you're weavable or unbelievable. I'm not into what you have to wear or do, or I'm into how you're acting. Africans say, Dr. Clark used to always say, Africans never say, I am my brother and sister's keeper. They just kept them. And just like I tell folk, I don't tell you I got your back. I just got your back. I don't have to tell you that. You got it. And this is where we have to move to as it relates to defining through critical thinking skills, where we're headed as a people.
Absolutely, Baba. So, Baba, I just want to take a quick pause to encourage everyone. Please like this video, thumb up the video. Please hit the notification bell so that anytime I go live, you will receive a link, or anytime I post a video, you will be notified. So like the video, share the video. I've been bringing on the elders as of lately. Just last week, we had Professor James Small on the panel, and we were speaking about the African-American identity family. Please go out and check out that build. I also had Officer McFadden on right after that to talk about George Floyd and the Minnesota riot. So please go back into the archives, family, check out those videos, share those videos, okay? Because we want to make this knowledge go viral. All right. So Baba, before we close out, okay, and I had a whole list of other stuff I wanted to ask you, but I know it's been over an hour and I said I wasn't going to hold you that long, Baba. So could you answer this last question? What is the ideal curriculum for Black or African children? What would the ideal curriculum entail in your opinion, Baba?
Okay. Now, my sister, Dr. Ma'at, before I answer that question, I'd like to step back and confirm what you said.
Okay.
The way social media works, it works by likes. See, critical thinking skills, it works by likes. Everything algorithmically deals with likes. If you respond to this program as it relates to Dr. Ma'at and what she's doing, and if you like it, if you share it, all of that is put into an algorithmic equation that will move her into an ability to be able to do more and more for our community. This is the way the system works. This is artificial intelligence. It's just the way it is. The same is true with books like on Amazon, Spirituality Before Religions. It has been supported by the community very well. But there's another side of the success of that book, Spirituality Before Religions, and that is when you write a review about the book. It changes the dynamic of the book, where it is placed within the algorithmic concepts in social media. So your support to get the book is good, but the icing on the cake is when you review it online with Amazon. Mm-hmm. The work that Dr. Ma'at is doing is phenomenal, but you will help her immensely if you actually respond online to her program, if you share it with somebody else, if you like it, even if you make a comment, just say, Dr. Ma'at, great show, learned a lot, keep on keeping on, you know?
Something, Baba.
it makes a difference.
It does. It
in the algorithms of social media, because that gives her more power in her discussions as she moves forward with all of the work that she's attempting to do for the community. So I just wanted to add that other part, because this is part of some of the things we have to learn about what makes things function and what allows us to move forward with all the work that we're doing. support what Dr. Maat is doing, like the program, make a comment. Some folk really, they write a dissertation sometimes.
I've seen them, Baba.
That's cool too. That's good too. But just simply, if you just want to say great show, that registers in social media. If you share it, how many shares, it registers. How many likes, registers. And it allows her the ability to take her program further and further as to where she wants to go. So I just wanted to say that also to confirm what you're saying, because this is another part of the thing that we have to learn. There's another part that we may not be aware of. And so to me, to go back to what you said, in terms of the curriculum, I think that the curriculum that I'm looking at, in fact, what I encourage people to do is you'll find my curriculum. It's free. It's on my website, kabakamene.com, KABAKAMENE.com. And what we have to do as a curriculum is we have to go back. You see, prophets are not psychics. They're just good historians. Because when you know what happened in the past, you can interpret what's happening in the present, and you can predict what's going to happen in the future. Like I can predict to you what's going to happen. I can see what's going to happen. I may not give you a date, but I can tell you what's going to happen down the road. Why? Not because something has somehow enlightened me and brought into me some special power. It's because I know history. And just like I know the Greek Empire fell, I know the Roman Empire fell, I know this Omen Empire is falling. My only question is, what are we going to do when it falls? Are we in positions in those 10 areas that Dr. Neely Fuller and the one that I added, are we in a position to take over control of our lives right now? Education,
come on, Baba.
Religion, are we ready for this? Do we have an economic system in place?
Mm.
So we have to start thinking about these things, but we put that into the curriculum. I believe that a curriculum needs to be developed in order that the purpose of the curriculum is meant to talk to an inventor's mind.
Mm.
What I talk to children about is not just for you to learn what I'm saying to you that you already know. When you find out that you already know this, how can you make this better?
Mm.
Everybody should always be looking towards making the civilization better.
Better. That's right, Baba.
The African tradition of the workers, of the adults of the population, it was meant to ensure that the children would do better than them. It was demanded of the civilization. Your only success is when your children do better than you. If your children do as good as you, that's still not what you're supposed to do. They're supposed to do better than you. And so a curriculum should be holistic in nature. We should be able to see where all of this fits, how all of this comes together, how all of this information that we have is making the civilization better, allowing people to get along better. And as you can see with what we have here, this thing right here that we're dealing with, this Western civilization, this is over.
Mm.
This is over. And it's just important, family, that we take it upon ourselves the responsibility. And don't look for them to validate you. Validate yourself and let the community validate you. Because I'm going to tell you something. Many people call me Dr. Kaba, but I don't have a PhD. I have 2 master's degrees, but I don't have a PhD. It's the community that called me doctor years ago.
Mm.
They anointed me that title, doctor, when I was teaching on 125th Street outside the Teresa Hotel, or when I was doing some type of presentation. You can go on YouTube and see me on 125th Street talking to the community. They call me doctor. That is the highest form of respect that the community gives you.
Absolutely. And also and Baba, elder,
Yeah.
elder, that being a title.
Yes.
In Western society, we typically call older people elders, but in the African context, an elder, you didn't just receive that that title simply because of your age. It was because of the contributions to the village.
That's right.
That's why you became an elder, because of your wisdoms and also because of your contribution to the advancement and the maintenance of the village.
Absolutely. And you were recognized for that.
Absolutely.
Because there were some seniors that were not considered elders.
That's right, Baba. It was
Every
a title that was
senior
earned.
an elder.
That's right.
In fact, there's only one thing worse than a young fool. And that's
an old fool.
Because it means you ain't learned your lesson.
And so, Baba, your curriculum, you said it's on your website. What is the name of your website, Baba?
Kamene.com. www.kabakamene.com.
Okay.
And you will get my free 6-day e-course that is dedicated to my book, Spirituality Before Religions, because I wanted to get the community ready for the book, because I am sure people who read that book had never been introduced to that type of information from that perspective. I'm analyzing the pyramid text, the coffin text, the book of the coming forth today by night. I don't mention one religion in the book.
Well, Baba, I'm definitely going to get the book as soon as we get off that live, Baba. And I hope I want to order it through you, because I know if I order it through Amazon, I'm not going to get a signed copy. And I love my signed copies. I have a copy of, I have books from Anthony T. Browder, signed copies, Dr. Claude Anderson. I really appreciate having those signatures. So I'm going to order it through Amazon, but I definitely, when I see you, I need you to sign my book, Baba.
Yes. Well, the other thing that I would say to you, my sister, is send me your contact address and I'll send you one.
Okay. Beautiful, Baba.
And we can, we can talk.
Beautiful. So Baba, in your curriculum, what are the 5 main, I don't know if it's 5, 6, or 7, what are the main curricular domains? So what are the 5 areas or 6 areas or 7 areas that you touch on in your curriculum? Well, it may be more, but
Well, the curriculum itself is an overview.
Oh, okay.
It is a consolidation of my college syllabi. It is a combination of my lesson plans. And it's all put together to show, because the curriculum guide itself is not quite that curriculum. Now, if you want the curriculum, you can go to thehistoricjourney.com.
Okay.
That's where I fleshed out the curriculum in Indianapolis. And I work with the Indianapolis public school system to implement this curriculum. It was called the Historic Journey. That's the full-fledged curriculum. But what you'll get is a 44-page curriculum that guides you through the pointed areas that we need to understand, starting with the fact. Before you even talk about life coming out of Africa, before you talk about the earth coming into existence, I take you into the cosmos with the Shabaka stone. And I show you how our ancestors viewed the coming into being of the universe. Because the way in which the universe came into being can be compared to when you get an idea. It's a thought. And that thought leads to desire to do something. That desire leads to the word being expressed, and the word is then made flesh. And so my thing is to take us before humanity, go way back. It's like a slingshot that you pull back. The purpose of pulling the slingshot back with the projectile in the sling is not to go back. The purpose is to go forward. But the further back you pull it, the further in front of you, you will propel it. So imagine your mind going back into the past, learning about your history, your culture, learning about the cosmos, learning about astronomy. Imagine going all the way back, how far you propel yourself. I'm not teaching past history to stay in the past. I'm pulling back the past in order to propel myself into our future. And so the areas that we have to understand is, how did humanity come into existence? How did we come to be? And then after we came to be, after we developed ourselves and became how did we get to civilization? Why did life start in Africa? What's the science of melanin? What's the science that would make humanity be able to build pyramids? And then we go to Africa, West Africa. We go to Africans in Europe. Go to Africans. I mean, I did a whole. I have an online class, the Kemetic Wisdom School, where we did something on the origins of the Kushites in the Mediterranean basin. The word Olympic came from Nigeria.
Mm.
There were Africans from West Africa that were in with the Kushites. We don't see how it, because the word Olu of Olympics is a Nigerian word. The root itself can be traced back etymologically to Nigeria. And the Olympics, and that would become sports, they all came out of the practice of military art. That's why all the Olympics, you have the shot put. The shot put was meant for you to throw it at your enemy. So you practice that. When you look at wrestling, when you look at boxing, when you look at all of the events, the discus, that was a weapon. And then out of military practice came sports. From sports came the Olympics in Africa, long before the Greeks ever existed. And so the curriculum has to be one that immerses the student into an understanding of multiple intelligences. There's many ways to be intelligent.
And you know what, Baba? Dr. Amos Wilson said the same thing in his book, The Developmental Psychology of the Black Child.
Mm-hmm.
When he said that scientists still argue over what does it mean to be intelligent. And Dr. Amos Wilson said there are different kinds of intelligence. What do you mean intelligent or intelligence? There are various kinds of intelligence.
That's right. That's right. And that is what we teach also. There's a gentleman, Howard Gardner, from Harvard University. He developed a program because historically, from the Western perspective, if you showed any form of challenges, emotional challenges, they would put you in a hospital, in an insane asylum. And what Howard Gardner came to realize is that there are many different ways of being intelligent. And he developed 7. He now has developed 8, but I'm afraid of that one because I'm always afraid when Europeans talk about a spiritual intelligence. I always have a problem with that. I don't think they know what spiritual intelligence is, but put that aside. He listed music, intrapersonal, spatial, kinesthetic, interpersonal, logic, and language. Those are areas where people can be very intelligent. And so, for instance, I tell a story of this individual has agoraphobia, which is a fear of crowds. Agoraphobia.
Okay, never heard of it, Baba, but thank you.
Yeah, agoraphobia.
Agoraphobia. Mm-hmm.
Which means that you're afraid of crowds. Like when you get into a subway train or you get into a crowded area, or if you're in a concert, you have emotional discharges. You can't handle the proximity of people. And so what you do to the person that has agoraphobia is you say, well, let me ask you this. Is there anything that you really enjoy? And they say, well, I enjoy music. And they say, well, do you, what type of music? Well, I enjoy classical music. Do you, okay, well, who's your favorite classical performer? Beethoven, another brother. And they say, okay, well, before you get up to go out to work, why don't you just listen to music? And he's, listen to music. Do you play? Yeah, I play piano. Well, you need to play piano too. And when you feel challenges, go to what you're strong at, which is music. Long story short, what actually happened psychologically with Howard Gardner, because he's a psychologist, what actually happened with his clients, and this is not a necessarily client of his, this is an example that I give, is that in doing so, when he went to his strength, the emotional challenges he had subsided. There was an educational psychologist by the name of Thomas Armstrong. He said, okay, well, if that works in the psychology and sociology department, that might work in education. That example that I gave you about the brother that was having problems with rate times time equals distance.
Yes.
In math class, but he performed it in gym class, which is the kinesthetic intelligence. I used to organize teachers to come together where I would get the gym teacher and the math teacher together, so that when the math teacher was teaching rate times time equals distance, the gym teacher could be teaching the rate times time equals distance that goes on in the gym. You have a sister named Ahine. Ahine is going to take a test in fractions, finding the common denominator. Out of 10 questions, Ahine gets 9 wrong. Teachers say, Ahine, you failed. You don't understand fraction. Ahine is dejected. She feels like she failed. It impacts her self-esteem.
Right.
So sister put her headset on and she starts to sing Girl on Fire by Alicia Keys. Sister sounds good. Ahine, ebonically speaking, can sing. Not sing. Ahine can sing.
She can sing.
That's it. And the body gets into it to make it even better. She can sing. What nobody told Ahine is she couldn't have started that song without a fraction. 2/4 time, 3/4 time, 2/3 time. As she sang her song, she was performing fractions: quarter note, half note, eighth note. Musicians and dancers think in base 4. We operate in base 10, 0 to 9.
Right, we do.
But in the base 4 system, you deal with 0, 1, 2, 3, and then what we call 10, 1 set, 0 left over.
And Baba, I believe that Sheikh Anta-Diop in his book Civilization or Barbarism, he said that the people of Kemet, I think they call it the Remech, he said that they function in base 2, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, that's what the computer is based on, the binary system.
Absolutely.
0 and 1. That's what, and that is why they were able to do what they did that appears to be unimaginable. Because they were able to, through a binary system of thought, create an entire world. Look at everything that's in the computer. And there's only 2 things you're dealing with: 0 and 1.
And 1.
And yet look at everything you can get. The fact that we're talking right now is based on a binary system. The fact that I can go into my mail, binary system. The fact that my phone has information, a binary system.
Yeah, digital, Bob.
You see, so they didn't invent nothing new. The computer isn't new. They only took what already existed and took it to another level. But our ancestors could do it naturally. Didn't need 4G or 5G. They were the G. And that is the curriculum: holistic education, not left brain, right brain, whole brain.
Whole brain.
You know, left side of your brain is analytical. That's where your mathematician is and your scientist. Right side of your brain is where your artist is.
Creativeness.
Your singer.
Creativity.
Okay. That's that side of the brain. But I used to give my children homework assignments to draw certain formulas in mathematics. I'd ask them, where is the science in your arts and crafts? I made the 2 brains merge. And here's what you can do just as practice. To practice being whole brain, if you find that you're right brain, you're right-handed, start to write some things with your left hand. Because because the right side of your brain been asleep the whole time you've been making the left brain work. So if you start doing things, if you find that you're carrying most of your packages when you go to the store, if you carry your bag and everything with your right hand, start to carry it with your left hand. Start to do things that allow you to be flexible between both sides. Now, I'm not saying write important things, because my handwriting, my right hand, I'm right-handed, even that right wasn't in that clear. But if you go into a store to make a list, start writing the things you need to buy with your left hand instead of your right hand. If you're taking notes on something, start using your left hand instead of your right hand. Whatever you find yourself dominant in, begin to use the other side to awaken that side of your brain. And these are just little things that we can start to do to make things different. Just little things like this we can start, because we got to start somewhere.
Absolutely, Baba.
And sometimes we get overwhelmed and we try to do too much, and then we get discouraged. Keep your goals simple, but keep them constant. Build on each one, because the star you're reaching for may be a little bit too far for you right now. But if you grab the star that's closest to you, eventually you'll get there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Baba, I want to show the people this book called Nation Building, by Dr. Kwame Akoto. I believe that Dr. Kwame Akoto transitioned, I want to say last year. I think family, don't quote me on that, but I think Baba did transition. I know that I spoke to his daughter maybe like a year or two ago, and she told me that he was ill. But I do think that he did transition. I want to say that Baba Walimu Barudi put up a post on Facebook announcing it. So I want to say that, family. But in his book, Nation Building, and Dr. Amos Wilson also references Nation Building in his book, Blueprint for Black Power. But in this particular book, on page 148, he talks about the ideal curriculum for Black children. And so, family, I mean, Dr. Kaba was, I mean, he was on point. The only thing that you kind of went, you started a little earlier than him. So you said, before we even get to history, let's start at cosmology. And I was like, wow, Baba, you know, because every group of people have their cosmology, how things came to be, you know, every group of people. So when I looked at the curriculum, he started with history. And I said, you said, well, before we even get there, let's start at cosmology. So Baba, you were dead on. And after that, he says history, language and culture and creative expression, philosophy and ideology. Then he gets into ethics and morality, self-knowledge, political science, business and economic development, mathematics, science, computer science, functional skills, and then he ends with nation building, career development apprenticeships, research theory and application, community development project, organizational experience. So all of the things, Baba, that you were talking about, I was sitting over here like, yes, yes, yes. So Baba, I'm definitely going to check out your curriculum. So before we close out, Baba, do you have any last words? Oh, before we close out, I want to read something to you. There was a brother in the chat room that said, his name is Haru Ra Netter. He said, thank you, Dr. Ma'at. Can you please tell Baba, I said, thank you for the true knowledge. It is well received, and I will be receiving his book tomorrow. Can't wait to read it. So I told him that I would read that message to you live on air, Baba. But is there anything, Baba, that you would like to say before we close out, Baba?
You know, one thing, first, Sister Dr. Ma'at, thank you for this opportunity. And thank you for the work that you're doing and that you continue to do. I'm just proud of all that you achieve. Your Mel Trek series is phenomenal.
Thank you so much, Baba.
It is part of our future. You know, we were together in Baltimore.
Yes.
And I had a chance to purchase that and purchase other items.
Yes,
I remember
you did,
your
Baba.
table was right off to my side. And I just congratulate you on the work that you're doing. You are a very important part of the solution. We're all part of the solution.
Yes, sir. But
what you're contributing is phenomenal. And so I just want to thank you for all that you're doing and enlightening me. And just when I watched it, I said, wow. Now I showed it to my grandson. In fact, he liked it so much he took it home. But
thank you so much, Baba.
You know, it just enlightens the children. It allows children to see themselves in so many different ways that they don't normally see themselves. And so I just encourage you to continue doing what you're doing and branch out and keep doing the work that you're doing. And to the community, I just want to thank you, because the most precious thing that we have, when all is said and done, the most precious thing that we have is time.
Mm.
How you spend, whether you realize it or not, if you put an elderly, rich man or woman on their deathbed, and you told them, I can only give you one thing, they wouldn't want more money, more houses, more cars. They want a little bit more time. Time is the most precious thing that you have, and how you spend it is critical. So I thank you for spending time with us today, because I respect your time. I respect that you took the time to listen to this conversation. And like I tell people, I'll never waste your time. And I ask that you don't waste mine.
Mm.
Spend your time wisely. Know what you're doing. Have the courage of your ancestors always with you, because they want to intercede. They want you to, they want to be part of what you're doing. You are our ancestors' eyes, ears, nose, throat, tongue, taste. It is through us that we express. When we do libation, we're not asking the ancestors from the outside to come in. We're asking our ancestors to come from within, to come out to share. Everything that you need, you were born with. Nobody outside is going to help you. They may help you. I'm not saying that they won't, but you don't need anybody outside yourself. And once you understand that the greatest enemy that you have is not outside of you, but it is that negative energy within you that is trying to convince you that you cannot do what you want to do, that you can't achieve what you want. That's your greatest enemy, because once you defeat that enemy inside, everything outside of you is a mere obstacle that you just got to get over. Once you get this together, everything outside will then be able to come to your desire and what you have to do. And we just have to understand that the sky is not the limit for us. Our ancestors are with us all the time.
That's right. Omnipresent. Omnipresent.
And omnipresent, omniscient, all-knowing.
Yes. Come on, Baba.
Omnipotent, all-powerful. They are all places and all time. And they are just waiting for us to reach out. And they will come. And they will bliss you. And we just have to understand this, family. We can do this. I come from education as it relates to what I saw happen. What I have, students that I've had that I had in kindergarten are Facebook friends of mine now. And when things like this happen, they contact me, they say, I remember when you were saying this in the classroom. I ain't changed. I've gotten wiser through maturity, as you will, as we all mature. But the sky is not the limit for you. You can achieve what you will. That's what Marcus Garvey meant when he said, up, you mighty race. You will achieve what you will.
That's right, Baba.
Will it. In Kemet, there was no word for magic. They did not believe in magic. Their word that is closest to what we call magic is Heka. H-E-K-A, Heka, the spirit to call within, which we would say, we would define as the word will. You will something to happen. Our ancestors willed their freedom on the plantation. During the civil and human rights era of the 60s, we willed success and we got it. And we're going to do it now.
That's right, Baba.
We're doing it as we speak. The fact that Dr. Maat and I can have this type of conversation, success. The fact that she is a professor, Morgan State, with students, that's a miracle. You go back 150 years, they would have told you out your mind.
Right.
Right? Come on, wait a minute.
Right, Baba.
What you talking about? What we're doing is a miracle, family. We just don't know it because we're still caught up in their interpretation of who we are and who we're not. And let me finish with this. I'm just going to quote Bookman and Mambo Cecile.
Come on, Baba.
Who in Alligator Trap, night before the major Haitian Revolution. The purpose of my book, Spirituality Before Religion, was to give you in dramatic form what Bookman told them then. And he said, cast aside your white God. You are free. He didn't say you would be free.
You are
He didn't
free.
say you could be free. Cast aside your white God. Cast aside the image of something that don't look like you, don't talk like you, don't want your interests like you. Cast that aside and embrace your African spirit. You are free. Keep on keeping on, family, because it ain't over till we win.
That's right. That's right. Baba, I want to thank you for taking your time out to come on the platform to speak with me. Baba, I've been watching you for years. I remember I used to watch you on YouTube, then I watched you on Hidden Colors. Then I called you one day, you answered the phone, and I was starstruck, because I don't, celebrities, that you're my celebrity. When I look at you, I said, that's one of my, so you got on the telephone, I heard your voice, and I got so excited. I looked at my friend, I said, he answered the phone, and I started talking to you. And Baba, I thank you. You are a wealth of knowledge, Baba. And I thank you for all of the contributions you made to the advancement of knowledge of self, Baba. All of the time, all of the energy that you put in. I called you. I said, Baba, I want you to come onto the platform. You said, no problem. When do you want me to come on? Baba, can you come on Monday? I'll be there on Monday. So, Baba, I thank you. And you've made yourself so accessible to the community, because we see you on YouTube. We see you in these documentaries. And you know how typically some people, they're here, they're there, and they get to a level of success and then you can't touch them. You've always made yourself accessible to the community, Baba. And I thank you for that, Baba. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your knowledge. I thank you for your wisdom. I thank you for your energy, Baba. And I have to bring you back so that we can continue this conversation, because there were a few topics that we did not get an opportunity to touch on. And I know my auntie is looking at this saying, Deanna, that's my given name. Deanna, you said 60 minutes and it's been over an hour. It's been actually 90 minutes. So I know she's probably fussing and watching. And I think I got a text message from her. But nonetheless, Baba, I will bring you back on.
No doubt.
I know you're going to come back on, Baba. So I'll bring you back on, Baba. Thank you so much. Family, please like the video, share the video, please comment. Baba, he's going to look on YouTube, comment, and let him know. Great job, Baba. Say something, family, okay? Until the next time. Peace. Alafia Hotep.